you.
Crystal Karen, in opposition to item 2 of the report of Standing Policy Committee Protection and Community Services, dated January 12th of 2009, regarding the roadside memorials. Crystal Karen. Ms. Karen, you'll have 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Crystal Karen. I'm here in opposition of the memorials being removed after 90 days. 90 days is not enough time for a memorial to be up because for anyone that has lost a loved one tragically shouldn't have a time frame in which to grieve. They need closure, and for a lot of them, the place their family member or friend that was alive is the place they need to make peace. Dr. Richard Tay, an engineer and road safety chair at Schulich School of Engineering at the University of Calgary, has studied roadside memorials and their effects. He found that there was very little difference in driver behavior, speed, or following distance. At this point, there is a proposal by one of the aldermen to place a 9-month time limit and a ban on roads which are 70 kilometers an hour or higher. In BC, the policy doesn't have a time frame, and the roadside memorials can stay up as long as they aren't a safety hazard. I can see why Public Works would have a problem with the memorials and trying to clear snow and cut grass around them and pick up the debris from the ones that have been vandalized. I also know that they're very proactive in health and safety, and although I don't know what their stance on the subject is, I would hope that they would be in favor of leaving the memorials up longer to show the public that they have a lot of city workers out there that are in danger every day. And one of their Secretary-Treasurer for Civic Services, Shannon Scrimita, was tragically killed by her common-law husband last spring. I'm not sure if there was a memorial put up for her, but if there was, would Public Works have wanted it removed, considering Shannon was a local 500 member? I do understand that the memorials can't be left up forever, but would like you to consider the time frame. Some of the memorials have been up for a long time and aren't maintained, and I can see that as being an issue with the people in the neighborhood. Although the families of the person that did kill someone has to drive by these memorials and shouldn't have to be reminded of the guilt they have because they killed someone but their family member did. Steve Watkins, the man that drove the SUV that killed Amanda Frizzley, was my neighbor. If you could see what his actions have done to the family, you'd realize how hard it is for them to be reminded every day of what Steve did, but that also makes them think of the Frizzley family and how precious life is. My other neighbor was Corporal James Arnell, the 88th soldier killed in Afghanistan. There's yellow ribbons on every tree down the front street. So would that be considered a roadside memorial? Would you ever be able to tell the mother of a son who gave his life for freedom that 90 days is long enough? I have 2 letters I'd like to read for you. The first one reads, I'm an extremely good friend of Amanda Frizzley. The roadside memorial is very important to me because of the tragic way in which my friend died. She was clearing vehicles for the Run for the Cure breast cancer marathon. She was an exceptional woman who lost her life on the job due to an unfortunate accident. The memorial isn't only a remembrance of the loss of our beloved friend Amanda, it's a reminder of how precious life is and how people must be reminded of the consequences of certain actions. I see the memorial and I think of time spent with Amanda, and that was the last place she was seen alive. For the purpose of raising awareness and further education on drinking and driving, the memorial can and should continue to make an impact on society. She was my best friend, and from knowing her personally, she would want to be remembered. This is something she would want to stay up. If the appearance and taste of the objects at the scene are poor, I would like to propose to put up a plaque of brass or like metals to commemorate the location. Her life was taken instantly. The pain from her family and friends live on forever. There aren't always grave sites to go and visit, and some people have their ashes sprinkled in their favorite places, or it may not be possible to visit the grave site due to them being buried in another city. Taking away the memorial is taking away my ability to put closure on what has happened and to be able to say goodbye to a very special person in my life. Amanda deserves to be remembered the way she would want. I think the answer is obvious. Let us honor her wishes by keeping or improving the memorial site. Sincerely, Michelle Gobialski. The second letter reads, first I must ask, who is it hurting? Why after 90 days does it become an issue when it wasn't an issue for the first 90 days? When I look at the ribbons that line Quayside Cove lovingly put up in memory of my son James, I remember the adventurous life my son was living, as well as the horrors and conflict that no one's children should have to go to war. My son died defending the Constitution we all live by and honor, which includes protecting and enabling less fortunate. These ribbons and roadside memorials represent the need, the respect in the world, and maybe someday the respect will outweigh conflict and tragedy. 90 days certainly doesn't seem adequate to honor and respect any fallen heroes and lives taken so suddenly, so senselessly. It would not be politically correct to force them down after 90 days, in my opinion. It would, however, be correct to hold families responsible for the upkeep and within safety guidelines of the road or distraction to drivers. Forcing citizens to take down harmless and meaningful memorials where bigger issues lie is just plain wrong. There are many fence posts that line the highway to Shiloh, and there are countless memorials along the highway in Manitoba. They've been up there much longer than 90 days. How are those citizens any different than us? They certainly are not much prouder of their lost loved ones than we are. Thank you, Wendy, mother of Corporal James Hayward Arnell, killed in action, Afghanistan. I'd like you to consider changing the 90 days as well as a request to leave it up longer. If a family still wants the memorial up, the family could then come and explain why they need more time. After a year, the family and friends could have a consecration ceremony which would give them the closure they need. I'd also like to see a small plaque with the person's name on it placed on a light standard or a stop sign near where the fatality occurred. That way the memorial may no longer be there, but the plaque will be there and it won't be in the way. Myself and Doug Mowbray, the president of Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, are willing to sit down with someone from the city to design the plaque, and the plaque would be paid for by the family, so there'd be no cost to the city. If the vote still goes through to have the roadside memorials removed in 90 days, there are a couple of questions that should be answered. What judicial system is going to monitor this? If it wasn't the family who put the memorial up, who's going to be the one responsible for any fines or tickets for having it up too long? What happens to the personal belongings that were at the site if the city takes it down? If a site is taken down by the city and the next day another memorial is put up in its place, does it get to stay up for 90 days? In 90 days, if the 90 days comes into effect after the vote, are the memorials that are up now allowed to remain for another 90 days, or do they have to be removed now? How would you know which ones have been up for how long, and who will be keeping track of this? In closing, I'd like to ask once again that the 90-day time frame be extended to 1 year with a request for longer if needed. I leave you with one question. Would you want to go to Shelley Glover, whose niece's memorial is up at Lakewood Infirmary, or Wendy Hayward Miskovitz, whose son's yellow ribbons line Quayside Cove, and tell them that they can no longer be allowed to show the public that their loved one's death should no longer be recognized by the public? If you can't allow more than 90 days, then please consider a plaque. Thank you.
Thank you. First question is by Councillor Swandell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks for coming out today, Crystal. I know this is a difficult issue for some of us to deal with, and I think you put some very good words out here today. We got onto this track because we needed our people to have some way of dealing with roadside memorials when they start to have an effect on other people's lives, and a lot of times they happen to be in people's front yards and they get rather large. And I don't think anybody's hung up on the time here. What we're trying to do is find a set of rules that our employees can use when they have to interact with people who are complaining about a roadside memorial. So our intent is not to eliminate roadside memorials altogether. My sense is even with a 90-day timeline in there, nobody's going to be out there aggressively enforcing. But your points are well taken. Without the timeline in there, do you agree that it's reasonable for us to have some sort of guidelines in place to help our employees deal with the issues?
Should be time frames or guidelines, as you say, maybe like we suggest with the plaque, to have that up, or to have specific sizes, or that the memorial can be to have, so they're not blocking the sidewalk or the road, because you wouldn't want one on a sidewalk and have to have the pedestrians walk onto the road to get around it, obviously. So we're not in disagreement with that. We just want a longer time frame.
And the time frame you suggested was 1 year?
Was 1 year, and if a family member feels that they need to leave it up longer, they can put in a request for a second year.
Your
Thank
third and final question? Councilor Thomas, your first question.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out on an issue that's very, very close and difficult to deal with. I noticed you made a couple of good suggestions there. One is to have someone who takes responsibility for the memorial. So if there were some regulations developed around where a memorial could be so that it didn't interfere with either pedestrian or vehicular traffic, would that be amenable to you? And I really liked your idea of establishing plaques. What would you feel about having this sent back to committee so that yourself and other people who might be interested have an opportunity to come and give some positive suggestions to
Oh yeah, that would be good. I have spoke with Doug Mowbray from that, and he's more than willing to come down as well.
Those are my
Thank you.
questions. Thanks.
Councilor Smith, your first question.
Yes. The roadside memorials that you see in the city of Winnipeg, are they permanent? Are they permanent memorials?
No, they're not.
That's all.
No further questions? Ms. Karen, thank you very much for coming.
Thank
today.
you.